You have spent your entire life being told a comforting lie. That the Greek gods, whatever their flaws, whatever their petty jealousies and messy love affairs, were ultimately forces of order, protectors, beings who, however flawed, stood on the side of civilization against chaos. Forget that comforting lie completely, because the true history of Olympus, the version buried beneath centuries of sanitized retellings, is a history of devouring fathers, flayed musicians, and gods who destroyed anyone who dared to remind them that they were not, in fact, perfect. Tonight, we are not telling you stories about heroism. We are telling you the story of what actually happened at the top of the mountain, before there was a mountain to rule at all, and what continued happening long after the throne was secure. By the end, you will understand why some ancient sources treated the gods not as guardians of justice, but as the single most dangerous entities in the entire cosmos, precisely because nothing existed above them to hold them accountable. Part 1. Cronus, the father who ate his children. Before Zeus, before Olympus itself had a name, there was Cronus, king of the Titans, and the horror he committed did not happen in some distant corner of mythology. It happened at the very center of the family that would eventually become the Greek pantheon. Cronus came to power by castrating his own father, Uranus, at his mother Gaia's request, ending Uranus's tyrannical refusal to let his children be born into the world. It should have been the beginning of something better. Instead, Cronus received a prophecy of his own, warning him that one of his own children would eventually overthrow him, exactly as he had overthrown his father. Cronus's solution was not caution. It was not exile. It was something far more monstrous, and something ancient sources describe with a bluntness that should genuinely unsettle you. As each child was born to his wife Rhea, Cronus swallowed them whole. Hestia, Demeter, Hera, Hades, Poseidon, one by one, as infants, moments after birth. Their father consumed them alive, and according to Hesiod's theogony, they remained trapped inside his body, conscious, for years, decades, imprisoned inside the very being who was supposed to protect them. Think about the sheer duration of that horror. This was not a single act of violence, over in an instant. This was an ongoing imprisonment. 5 separate children, held alive inside their father's stomach for what the myth implies was an agonizingly long stretch of time. Aware, unable to escape, unable to be born into the world they were owed. Rhea, when she became pregnant with her 6th child, could not bear to watch it happen again. She fled to Crete in secret, gave birth to Zeus, and in his place, handed Cronus a stone wrapped in swaddling clothes. Cronus, in his paranoia, did not even bother to examine what he was consuming closely enough to notice the deception. He swallowed the stone whole, believing his final threat eliminated, while his actual final child was raised in hiding, protected by nymphs, fed on the milk of a divine goat, growing in secret toward the exact fate his father had tried so violently to prevent. When Zeus finally came of age, he did not simply attack his father directly. He first tricked Cronus into drinking a potion that forced him to vomit up everything he had swallowed. And here is the detail that almost never gets the attention it deserves. 5 fully grown adult gods, Hestia, Demeter, Hera, Hades, and Poseidon, emerged from their father's body in reverse order of their swallowing, having spent their entire developmental existence trapped inside him. Only now, as fully formed adults, seeing daylight for the first time. This is the origin story of the Olympian gods. Not a birth, A regurgitation. Following years of imprisonment inside the body of a father who consumed his own children specifically to prevent the future from happening at all. And this is the family, still bearing whatever psychological weight that origin implies. That would go on to rule the known universe. Part 2, Apollo and the flaying of Marsyas. If Cronus shows divine cruelty rooted in paranoid self-preservation, the story of Marsyas shows something arguably more disturbing, a god's cruelty triggered by nothing more than wounded artistic pride. Marsyas was a satyr, a minor woodland spirit, skilled at playing the aulos, a double-reeded wind instrument. According to the most common version of the myth, the instrument itself had originally been invented and then discarded by Athena, who threw it away in disgust upon realizing how it distorted her face when played. Marsyas found it, picked it up, and through years of practice, became extraordinarily skilled, developing a haunting, wild style of music entirely his own. His skill eventually grew bold enough, or foolish enough, that he issued a direct challenge to Apollo, god of music, poetry, and the lyre, proposing a contest to determine who was the superior musician. The stakes, as was traditional for challenges against gods, were absolute. The winner could do whatever he wished to the loser. The muses were called to judge, and the contest began. Both performed with extraordinary skill, and by most accounts, the contest was genuinely close. Closer than a god competing against a minor woodland spirit should ever have allowed it to be. In the decisive round, according to several ancient sources, Apollo turned his lyre upside down and continued playing flawlessly, then challenged Marsyas to do the same with his wind instrument. A physical impossibility for an aulos player by the very nature of the instrument. It was not a contest of pure musical skill at that point. It was a rigged final round, engineered specifically to guarantee a god's victory over a mortal opponent who had, up until that moment, been dangerously close to winning honestly. Apollo won. And then Apollo collected his prize. He did not simply humiliate Marsyas, or banish him, or strip him of his instrument as a symbolic punishment. According to Ovid's Metamorphoses, Apollo had Marsyas bound to a tree and flayed him alive, stripping the skin from his entire body while he was still conscious, while he screamed, in a punishment so excessive, so disproportionate to the actual offense of simply challenging a god to a contest, that even ancient audiences accustomed to divine cruelty found it genuinely shocking. Ovid describes the aftermath with unflinching, almost forensic detail. Marsyas's exposed nerves and organs visible beneath the removed skin. His screams, according to the poem, questioning why he was being torn from himself, asking what he had done that was worth this level of suffering, for the crime of losing a music competition. And here is the detail that transforms this from simple cruelty into something almost philosophically disturbing. According to the myth, the tears shed by satyrs, nymphs, and shepherds who witnessed the flaying were so abundant that they formed an actual river, later named after Marsyas himself, a river that ran through the region for the rest of antiquity, a permanent geographical monument to the excessive suffering a god inflicted over wounded pride. Apollo, god of music, poetry, healing, and prophecy, one of the most consistently beloved and idealized figures in the entire Greek pantheon. Flayed a living being alive because that being had dared to be almost as talented as he was. Not because Marsyas had committed some genuine crime against the natural order, the way Erysichthon had, or violated a sacred trust the way certain mortals did elsewhere in mythology. Simply because he had come close to winning. Part 3, The Selfishness of Zeus and Poseidon. If Cronus shows cruelty born of paranoia, and Apollo shows cruelty born of wounded pride, The ongoing behavior of Zeus and Poseidon shows something more insidious still: cruelty as an unquestioned, permanent feature of how power simply operated at the top of Olympus. Applied so routinely that it barely registered as remarkable within the mythology itself. Consider the sheer volume and pattern of Zeus's behavior toward mortal women throughout Greek mythology. Not as isolated romantic episodes, but as a consistent pattern of a god using absolute power with essentially no consideration for consequence. Io transformed into a cow to hide his affair from Hera, then hunted relentlessly across the earth by Hera's wrath regardless. Callisto, seduced by Zeus disguised as the goddess Artemis herself, a deception specifically engineered to exploit her trust, then transformed into a bear and nearly killed by her own son when Hera discovered the affair. Europa, approached in the form of a gentle white bull specifically to lower her guard, then carried out to sea against her will the moment she climbed onto his back. In case after case across the mythology, the pattern repeats with almost mechanical consistency. Zeus desires a mortal woman. Zeus deceives or overpowers her, using divine power specifically to circumvent her ability to meaningfully consent or refuse. And in nearly every version, the woman herself bears the consequences afterward. Whether through Hera's jealous wrath, through social ruin, through transformation, or through simply being discarded once Zeus's interest had passed. The god responsible for initiating the entire chain of harm faces, in the vast majority of these myths, essentially no consequence whatsoever. He remains king of Olympus throughout every single one of these episodes. His authority never once meaningfully questioned by the pantheon he rules. Poseidon's pattern of behavior runs disturbingly parallel. We have already examined what he did to Medusa, an assault committed inside Athena's own temple, for which the victim, not the perpetrator, bore the eternal punishment. But this was not an isolated incident in his mythology. According to several ancient accounts, Poseidon pursued Demeter relentlessly while she was grieving the loss of her daughter Persephone, and when she transformed herself into a mare specifically to escape his advances, hiding among a herd of horses, Poseidon transformed himself into a stallion and pursued her regardless, resulting in the birth of the divine horse Aeon, a story treated in most surviving sources with strikingly little acknowledgement of what the pursuit itself actually represented. What connects these two gods' behavior is not simply individual acts of cruelty, comparable to Cronus swallowing his children or Apollo flaying Marsyas in a single dramatic moment. It is something more structurally troubling, an entire mode of operating in the world, sustained across countless individual myths, in which desire simply overrode consent as a matter of course, because nothing in the cosmic hierarchy existed above these two gods capable of meaningfully restraining them. The pattern across Olympus? Step back now and look at what connects all three of these stories, because the pattern that emerges is more disturbing than any single incident examined in isolation. Cronus consumed his own children out of paranoid fear of losing power. Apollo flayed a satyr alive out of wounded pride at nearly losing a contest. Zeus and Poseidon treated mortal women as resources to be pursued and consumed essentially without consequence. Across dozens of separate myths, for the entire duration of their reigns. In every single case, the defining feature is not simply cruelty itself, but the complete absence of any check on that cruelty. Cronus faced no consequence for swallowing 5 children until his 6th, hidden specifically to escape that fate, grew strong enough to force the issue by trickery rather than justice. Apollo faced no divine tribunal, no consequence whatsoever, for flaying a living being over a rigged musical contest, and remained one of the most celebrated, temple-worshipped gods in the entire pantheon afterward. Zeus remained king of the gods throughout every single documented instance of deception and coercion attributed to him. His authority never once meaningfully threatened by the pattern. This is the actual architecture of power at the top of Olympus. Once you strip away centuries of retellings that softened these stories into palatable romance and adventure, it was not a system of justice with occasional lapses. It was a system in which the beings holding absolute power faced, structurally, almost no mechanism capable of holding them accountable for how they used it. And the myths, written by the very civilization that worshipped these gods, recorded this reality with a bluntness that later retellings have spent centuries quietly editing away. Consider what it actually meant to live as a mortal, or even as a lesser divine being, in a cosmos governed by figures like these. Consider what it meant to know that Cronus had once imprisoned his own children inside his body for years, that Apollo had flayed a satyr alive over wounded pride, that Zeus and Poseidon pursued mortals with essentially no restraint imposed by anyone above them. The ancient Greeks were not naive about the nature of the power they worshipped. They built temples to these gods not because they believed them to be moral exemplars, but because they understood, with unflinching clarity, that these were forces powerful enough to reward or destroy you. And that power of that magnitude, held without meaningful accountability, was simply the actual, terrifying nature of the universe they lived inside. This is why ancient Greek religion so rarely resembles the comforting, moralizing frameworks of later traditions. The gods were not held up as figures to imitate ethically. They were forces to be appeased, negotiated with, and, wherever possible, avoided attracting the attention of, precisely because their power operated with no meaningful ceiling on how it could be used against you. So here is the question worth sitting with as you finish this video. We are taught, across nearly every mythological tradition, to associate ultimate power with ultimate responsibility, to imagine that whoever sits at the very top of any hierarchy must, almost by necessity, have earned that position through some combination of wisdom and restraint. The Greeks knew better, and told us so, repeatedly, across thousands of years of surviving myth. Sometimes the throne at the very top is occupied not by the most just, but simply by whoever survived being swallowed, whoever won a rigged contest, whoever faced no consequence for taking whatever they wanted, for exactly as long as nothing existed powerful enough to stop them. If this kind of story pulls you in, subscribe, because there are darker gods and older nightmares still waiting in the depths of this mythology. And I am not done pulling them into the light.